Hello there, it's Dawn Denton, and I wrote my first book when I was, let's have a look. I'll show you in a second. I was 11. I wrote my first book, and it was the most wonderful project we did at primary school. It was our autobiography, and I loved this project. So there it is, The Dawn of Dawn by Dawn. I know, I'm such an idiot. And I got into it. There's the front of it, and I did all the I went and found a book on the shelf, and I made it, and I said the published by Dent and Ton Publishers. And then 1982, printed in the Republic of South Africa. I dedicate this book to my readers. And then I had my table of contents, which was all. And what this project did was actually, it got me excited about writing, but it also connected me. And I think this was the purpose of the project. It connected me to my heritage. It connected me to my mother in a way I had never connected with her at the age of 11. I had to ask her about my birth. I had to ask her about the circumstances around my what was life like when I was growing up, and she told me about, I was a forceps delivery. The doctor was Dr. Chadwick. I My parents had been married at the Methodist church in Boksburg, and my father made my cot because he was a carpenter, and my mom stuck pictures on it, and there's a photo of my parents getting married, and it was just the most wonderful project. And I went through the different phases of my life and my photos. It was just wonderful. Now the last chapter was about the future. And the idea really, and I know Mrs. Denk, who was my teacher, I know the idea was, well, why don't you carry on with this and every year you add to it, which of course we never did. But I want to read you the part that said, chapter 12, the future. When I grow up, I'd like to be a vet, either for farms or for towns. It's important that you're specific. I like animals very much and would like to care for them. I would also like to win the Wimbledon finals. I also would like to be good at athletics. And I would have a nice house in Delmas. So this is where my mother and I lived for a short period of time, and have 4 children. On Sundays, I would teach Sunday school. I would also like to tour around the world before I get married, and I would like to be a sports trainer. Now, it's interesting because when you think back of what you wanted to achieve when you were 11, it's probably very different to how your life turned out. Now, I do have friends that when they were 11, they wanted to be a teacher, they became a teacher, and they will retire a teacher. And they are so happy because they found what they wanted to do with their lives forever. And that's exactly what they're going to do. But there is very little in this that has happened. I mean, I still like animals, but the rest of it. Oh, and I did tour around the world before I got married. I'm still not married, so I've got lots of traveling I could still squeeze in, no doubt. But the point I wanted to make today was simply that there was nowhere in there that I would be a writer. There is nowhere in there that I would be a public or professional speaker. But I had already started my journey of writing a book. And I was really quite inspired by this project. And it's also a really powerful reminder of the impact we can have on children when they are really young, because I was 11 and I really took a lot of care and passion and time writing this book. There are no mistakes. I didn't have to cross anything out. So I must have really spent a lot of time being really clear about what I was writing. Um, and when I got into secondary school and I couldn't find it, I know it's somewhere around here, but I don't know where it is. Did a lot of creative writing, and there was one line that I know was not intended to be understood the way I understood it. But my teacher said, "Did you write this yourself?" And that really upset me. Now, what she was, I think, trying to encourage me was to carry on, but I was really upset by that that she had not thought that I was capable of writing a fictional piece. And I think that really stopped me from writing very much more. I obviously did creative writing for school, and I did that and carried on doing that. And we had a creative writing exam that we had to do at the end of our schooling. That was our final exam in December 89, which you couldn't prepare for. You just had to come and contribute to write the exam paper, whatever the session was. But I really didn't write very much after that. But through the years, I mean, if you looked around my study, you'll see I've got boxes and boxes of content that I want to write. I've got articles that I've had for 20, almost 30 years, some of them, because I want to use them to write. So I have fallen into a writing career. And I think what's really important is that we are all writing all the time. We write and we write and we write. We write on social media posts. We spend a lot of time on email. We spend a lot of time, I know many of us spend a lot of time on email. We often write reports. We communicate with people on social media. There's writing that we do every single day, and you do not need to have a book deal or a blog or a degree in English language or creative writing to call yourself a writer. You are a writer, whether you call yourself that or not, because you write all day, every day. It's not about being perfect. It's not about having, like picking up a book. Any of the books on the bookshelf behind me, they all are perfectly written and edited. But you know what? Experts have done that. Because somebody wrote that piece or that book or those articles, and a professional fixed it up. A professional said, oh, that sentence doesn't sound right, let's use this verb instead. And though there are people in the world who will do that. But you can be a writer without perfect grammar, because it's all about, and it's simply about connecting people. It's about sharing content and bringing people together. When you read something well, you don't hear the world around you. You are completely consumed by that. Whether it's a newspaper article, whether it's a novel, you are a writer if you can connect with people. Now, writing is not born. People are not born writers. When I wrote this at 11, I was not a writer. But I have written more and more and more and more. And I now have the confidence to call myself a writer because I have practiced. I've done a lot of practicing, and I deliberately put myself into that space. A lot of us talk about wanting to be a writer or wanting to learn another language. Oh, I'd love to learn another language. But do we actually sign up for a class? Do we get an app on our phone so we can start? No, because something holds us back. And it's the same with writing. I've heard people say, oh, I'd love to just be a full-time writer. Well, why don't you just do that? Why don't you start practicing now so that you can leave your full-time employment and write full-time if that's what you want to do? If that's not what you want to do, but you would like to maybe increase an additional income stream, all of those things are completely valid. And remember that it's not about anything else. Simply about what you know and what you love, and about how you can bring people into that conversation. And you don't sound like anybody else. People will say, oh, we've got ChatGPT and we've got articles and there are people who are experts, but it's your voice that shares this content. It's your perspective. And I always say to people on the writing course, your goal is your first draft. Your goal is not perfection. And I've been working with a few people recently who are struck by perfection. They get stuck before they even start. Oh, I don't know who I'm going to write this for. I don't know why would I write that? I don't know what to include. I don't know. And actually, it's just about connection. Just put pen to paper and get started. Because we all sit with this imposter syndrome. Who am I to write? I'm not good enough. Have you seen how brilliant they are? What if people don't like it? And all the stuff that goes on in our heads. It is completely and utterly normal. There are writers. I bought a book recently. I went to through my Celebrate Southern Africa brand, I interviewed somebody he's British, and he wrote a book, and he stumbled across my interview on YouTube because he was writing a book about the Eastern Cape. And we know that the 1820 settlers are quite a big story in the Eastern Cape. And so he was doing research about something else in the Eastern Cape. He had been on a gap year when he had left school, and he's now, middle aged, but he wanted to write about this gap year because it had such a massive impact on his life. And so he went off to write this book, and he was researching it and stumbled across my interview on Celebrate Southern Africa, where I spoke to Paul Tanner Tremaine about the 1820 settlers. He's the one in the UK who has the biggest database of the 1820 settlers. So he got in touch. I interviewed him about his first book, and he wrote his second book, which was born out of the first book. When he was researching, he stumbled across another wonderful story that was around the Eastern Cape, and he invited me to his book launch in Winchester. So I went to his book launch, and it was such an honor for me to be there. And when I was standing in the bookshop and we were chatting, when you're surrounded by books, I don't know about you, but I utterly love it. And so I stood there, and there was a book about writers, and it was paragraphs from famous writers about why they write and how they got into writing. So the pieces are not very big, but and I don't know 900 of these writers. I don't know any of them. I mean, there's a few that are famous, but I meant 90%, not 900. And so I read these little paragraphs, and I kind of paged through it, and I thought, I've got to have this book. So I now have it next to my bed, and every evening I read just a short little paragraph from a writer to say why they ended up and how they ended up being a writer and why it's important to them. And I just think that it's normal, because when you read about all these writers, it took a lot of guts for them to put themselves out there, and specifically in the written word. I know for some of you, to put yourself out there on a Facebook Live like this is a real fear, but people overcome those fears. So I often contemplate what makes you a writer. And you know what? The fact that you write, or that you want to write, that is enough. That is absolutely enough. If you care about anything, if you care about an idea, about stories, about lessons, about things that you've learnt, about things that you lie in the garden and you contemplate while you're staring at the clouds or the stars, those are things that you can write. That's all writing. And you're watching this live, you are curious about the writing that I do, and even just being here is pretty much the beginning of your writing journey. So for me, I think I want you to reflect on your writing so far. And there are people who are watching this who are actually just friends of mine who have known me for a long time and have never thought of themselves as writers. Have never been interested in being a writer anyway. But I think the reflection is on how much you actually write. And if you are brave enough and you have written something, I'd love you to post it below this video. If it is on a website, well, that's brilliant, because you've already got the confidence to put it out there, whether it's a blog post, or it's I don't know, you've written an article on a website. I write in a few roles that I do locally. I write an article for the local paper every 12 weeks. It's a 12-week cycle because other people slot in between. And I share that on social media. So if you've written anything, please share it and be brave enough. If you've written a social media post, pop the link below so that we can all go and have a look at how brilliant you are, because it's brave to put it out there, but it's also really brave to share it with the world. I know there are people who publish a book and then hope that the world doesn't find it because they're so scared that the world's going to go, oh, no, that's rubbish. Well, remember, nobody's ever criticized anyone who's done a better job than them. So, it's about being brave, really. So post anything today, a thought, a story, a blog post, a link to something. And just consider if you want a prompt. If you want a prompt to be able to get you writing, I have a WhatsApp channel. So it's really quite simple. The WhatsApp channel is about no one sees your number. It's like having a Facebook page. And if you go to WhatsApp, I want you to have a look at your WhatsApp, and you go to your updates tab, and you will see, so in my updates tab, you can see at the bottom it says updates there, the third one across. I follow all the newspapers. Look, there's CNN, New York Times. That's my channel there. I do Sky News and BBC, all of them. And my channel is where people can go. Remember, it's social media without algorithms. It is a really powerful way for people to engage with your content. But I'll post the link here to my WhatsApp channel, and you can use each of, I've got, currently I have 100 days, a daily prompt to help you, inspire you. And you might want to start with those. But don't just think about the answers, write them down, because that's where the power is. So that's my little message to you today. You are a writer, whether you like it or not. And it's now about enhancing that writing. So from my very first book that I wrote in 1982 to my most recent book, which was, what is my most recent book? Oh, I brought together a collaboration of a group of women, and we looked at Unstick Your Stuck. And 10 of the women all contributed to a collective ebook, which I'm currently getting ready for paperback. So, but yeah, I want you to think of yourself as a writer. And if you're brave enough, be brave, be bold, be brilliant is my tagline. And post something below this video that you have written, whether it's just a thought, share a post, share a blog post, share an article, or just share your thoughts. That would be amazing. So thank you. I hope you have a lovely weekend. The weather in sunny Frome is sunny for now, but it's going to be pouring with rain this weekend. So I need to mow the lawn today. So that's my Friday. Believe me, I have a lot more to do than just mow the lawn. But I really enjoy spending time with you. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you, writer. Bye-bye.